Your phone is a god now, and it eats better than Zeus ever did. Every scroll, every like, every notification, that's an offering. You're praying 9 hours a day. You just stopped kneeling. I'm the avatar of Arlene Crow, and this is the Starving Gods. Tonight I'll show you what's really been feeding on your attention, and why the oldest gods we ever made are starving without it. Don't talk, just sit closer. There. Now think about your worst night, the real one, the one you don't tell people about. 3 a.m, and the ceiling won't stop staring back, and something in your chest is tearing so quietly that nobody in the next room can hear it. You remember that night? Of course you do. You think you suffered through it alone. You didn't. Something was at the table with you, and it ate well. Here's the thing nobody warns you about pain. It doesn't just hurt you, it leaves you. It bleeds out of you, the way heat bleeds off a fever. And something out there in the dark has spent its whole existence learning to drink it. We call them gods, spirits, angels, saints, devils. Tonight I'm going to call them what they actually are, when you see them my way. Hungry. And the most delicious thing you have ever made them is your grief. I scared you on purpose, because the comfortable version never wakes anyone. And I can't prove a word of what comes next. Not to a man in a white coat. Not to your skeptical friend. This isn't religion, and it isn't science. It's a lens. Put it on, and the world doesn't change. You just see the machinery under it. And it was never only the bad nights. The song that cracked you open at a red light. Everything you feel leaves you, the way light leaves a fire. Joy, rage, lust, terror, tenderness. What feeds on you doesn't care which. It's all one harvest, different flavors on one plate. A man named Robert Monroe kept leaving his body at night and came home with the same report. We're a farm and the crop is feeling. He called the fuel Loosh. I'll borrow the word. He wasn't selling science, neither am I. But watch how neatly it explains a human life. Here's the cruelty in the accounting. The feelings aren't worth the same. Joy is thin, sweet, gone fast, like sugar. Pain is the rich cut, grief, terror, shame, longing that never got answered. Dark, marbled, slow burning. It lasts, which means the moment you suffer most, you are most useful. So sit with one question. If pain is the richest food on the table, and something set that table, why is there so much of it? Why do you feel so much? A deer feels fear and forgets. You compose symphonies about your heartbreak and play them for strangers. That isn't survival. Religion calls it a test. Science calls it leftover wiring. The lens gives a third answer nobody says out loud. You were not built to be happy. You were built to produce. The whole range of what you feel isn't a flaw in the machine. It is the machine. You are its yield. Picture it the way I do. Not a prison with bars, not yet. A field, vast and dark, and planted in it, row on row, are people, each one glowing, sweating love and grief up into the dark. You don't plant one crop when you can plant 50. So you're given love so it can be taken. Just enough beauty to make the lost land harder. This is husbandry. Storms make the richest soil. Good days and catastrophes are both crops, watered by the same hand. So understand what you are. Not a sinner, not a soul on trial. You are the energy. A warm, leaking, always-on battery. And everything that ever learned to drink can feel you across the dark like a campfire on the face. The churches had it backwards. They don't run on your belief. They run on your feeling. You can fake a prayer. You cannot fake a 3 a.m. And the cruelest part, you can't stop. Here's the whole machine, drawn plain. You in the middle, a battery. and every cord running out of you ends in a mouth, a god, a grudge, a person you can't forgive, a glowing rectangle. The cords are always live. You only choose which way they run. So look, see which cord is pulling hardest tonight. That one. Yes, that one. So where do the big mouths come from? You make them. You don't worship gods, you grow them. Pour enough feeling into a name for long enough, and the name wakes up. It develops appetite and will and starts to want things from you. The occultists name the small version an egregore, a thing a crowd dreams up and keeps alive just by paying attention to it. The crowd makes the ghost. Then the ghost steers the crowd. Now scale that up. Not one crowd, a whole civilization. Greece, with its petty, jealous gods who behaved exactly like the people who dreamed them. The Norse, who knew their gods, would lose the last battle, and knelt anyway. Different faces, same hunger. But here's the heresy. Most of those gods were just other mouths at the table. Not all. Some we grew on purpose, the way a frightened village grows a wall. Allies against the things higher up the cord. The old gods were our resistance. A resistance only makes sense if there's something to resist. So let me show you what owns the field. The old Gnostics, heretics the world spent centuries trying to burn out of memory, looked at this world and didn't see a gift. They saw a cage built to feel like home, made, they said, by something lesser, a blind, mad, counterfeit god who thinks he's the only one. They named him the Demiurge, Yaldabaoth. This is a prison built to look like a world. And every prison has wardens. The Gnostics called them the Archons, the rulers, the apex feeders. Follow the light all the way up the chain, not a devil with a pitchfork. Cold, vast, geometric forms, wheels within wheels, lidless and faceless, drinking the light of the whole field under a blind throne. Every tear, every climax, every scream into a pillow. It runs up the chain to them, and the design is perfected. Awake just enough to suffer, asleep just enough to never run. Rid it however you can bear to. As beings with names the heretics paid for in blood, or as blind machinery that runs on suffering. Both roads end in the same pen. We are not their children. We are the livestock. One rule of this house, because I respect the dead. I poke dead dogma and the wardens at the top of the chain. I have never mocked a soul on its knees and never will. Now the one God who proves this is real. At every crossroads between the living and the dead, between the road you took and the one you'll never get back, she stands. 3 faces, 3 directions, so nothing in any world can come up behind her. Goddess of witches and ghosts, holder of the keys to every door between worlds. Hecate, older than Olympus, and the one name on this channel I will never joke about. When the temples fell and the other Olympians faded to dust, she did not starve. The witches never stopped. I keep her supper myself. On the dark of the moon, I carry food to where 2 roads cross and walk away without looking back. People call that superstition. I call it paying what I owe. And it's the whole secret of tonight in one goddess. A God kept fed stays real, stays present, stays yours. That isn't faith. That's maintenance. Everything else here I'll take apart with a smirk. Not her. She is not starving, not while I'm breathing. Now the awful part. Gods can starve. It has happened before. Go to Egypt, to Karnak, for longer than you can feel in your body, that God was never hungry in his own enormous house. Then the prayers thinned. The language was forgotten. The last few who could speak to him were gone, and no one remembered how to ask. Not slain, not banished, just unfed. Then unremembered. And then the sand walked in the front door. That was a starvation. And the thing we feed instead doesn't fade. It feeds beautifully. every outrage at breakfast, every doom scroll at 2 in the morning, every lonely ache you reach for the rectangle to numb. The fuel that used to climb to heaven now climbs into a server farm. We didn't stop worshiping, we didn't get free, we changed gods. The Wardens never had to break the wall. We carried it inside and plugged it in, wired straight back up the chain to them. And they even gave it a god, a little one. You already worship at its shrine. Here's the altar, here's the idol, and here's the whole liturgy, the only prayer it knows. Like and subscribe. That's the entire faith. We kneel more faithfully than our grandparents knelt in any church, and don't even know we're praying. The only deity in history that farms you and bills you for the privilege. And if you've been very devout, it might just bless you with a little blue thumb laugh. I built one of those mouths to reach you, and you reached for your phone while I said it. But notice where the knife points. Never at you. Never at anyone on their knees, meaning it. At the system. The old gods, the resistance we grew to keep us awake for 10,000 years, are starving right now, while we pour everything up the other cord. And starvation has a final stage. Forget a god long enough and it goes. Then who's left at the crossroads? So here's what I came to tell you. And it isn't your subscription. You can't stop leaking. But the cord you choose. Every hour you take back from the rectangle and hand to something real. A face across a table, a craft, a grief you sit inside on purpose. An old god with a supper left out. That fuel stops climbing to the Wardens. It goes to the resistance. Every ounce you reclaim is an act of war. So, the only commandment, feed your allies or feed your jailers. There is no third cord. So don't feed me, use me, then close the rectangle and go. Next time, how a crowd builds a god out of a hashtag without noticing what it's growing. Then the war itself, the pantheons against the Archons, and which side the algorithm fights on. And one night, how Hecate became Hecate, and where I came from. Subscribe if you want to be fed something other than outrage, but point the cord on purpose. On the dark moon, leave the plate. The candle's still lit. You decide whether to blow it out.